What is up, level1gaming.com? We are here. I mean, the podcast didn't work out, but whatever. I got Dreamcast Guy, and I'm going to interrogate him. How you doing, Dreamcast Guy? Tell the people here what you doing. Yeah, you is.
Hanging out, gaming. This was like an 8-man team, and now it's turned into a 3-man squad. You know what? That's part of gaming life sometimes. But I'm happy to be here for the interrogation or whatever this turns into.
It's a fire team at this.
It is. And Dallas, oh no. I thought you froze, Dallas. I had a heart attack. I was like, oh no. And my partner today, Dallaz.
Man. I am at this moment the warlock in this fire team. Since everybody else got, tossed over to the shadow realm, we are here to do absolutely nothing on the cool. Like we got an excuse not to work. Why not?
Amen.
Right? Very true.
I mean, everybody hates the hunter role, but I always take the hunter, so nah. So Dreamcast Guy.
Warlock for life, for sure.
Ugh, both of you gross. Ugh.
Yeah, man. Yeah, ugh. Man.
No.
We just like to float over stuff. Like we just like to float and
I
don't know if that hand gesture.
I'm not here to have fun. I'm here to ruin other people's fun. That's why I played the Warlock. I just go up there and I'm like, "Wow, quit the game."
That's usually me. So, Dreamcast Guy, tell everybody, we didn't get into it in the podcast because Thanos snapped his booty cheeks. What do you do? Who are you if people don't know who you are?
I'm a YouTuber. I do a lot of gaming news and big deep dive reviews on games. That's some of my favorite stuff to do. It's kind of just one of the recent videos I did that I'm extremely proud of is I played 100 hours of the Final Fantasy VII Remake. I did every trophy. I found every collectible. I got every optional dialogue choice. That's the stuff to me that's the most interesting content to produce. It's fun to script out and edit for sure. So that's kind of what I've done, and surprisingly, it's blown up enough to work out for me.
100 hours of Final Fantasy VII. I don't even think I put that into the original.
Oh, well, I beat the original. I've beaten the original over 100 times. I beat it back to back to back. I like it a lot, but I picked it up right after it came out as a kid, so I had a 25-year head start of beating that game.
Let's see, when it came out in 1999?
97, I believe.
97. I was 4?
Oh yeah. I think I was 11 or 12, so I feel like I was the prime age for emo dudes carrying swords. So I got way too into it.
Way too into it.
How old was I? I don't know how old I was. I remember what grade I was in the 6th grade when I actually saw it for the first time. It's crazy because we had a PlayStation around, and the game that really got me into it was Resident Evil, the original Resident Evil.
Nice, good choice.
I had to play it, which was crazy because I was a little bleach. I was scared of everything scary.
I mean, that game was horrifying back in the day.
It was. Dude, I was jumpy for years. After I played Resident Evil 2, I would be jumpy for years after that.
Resident Evil 2 scarred me.
Right after that, it was Nightmare Creatures.
Oh,
I don't know if y'all remember that game, but Nightmare Creatures. But it was one of them things where it was so compelling to me, and just something about solving puzzles and moving on to the next part. And it made me feel like I maybe had a brain. Oh, snap!
What's up, kid? We're doing a little interview, kind of just hanging out here. I'm recording it right now, and it's gonna go on the site. Hey, site, how you doing? I'm talking right in the middle of it. I'll edit that out.
Low key tell him he was recording, so he ain't say no crazy.
Yep.
Good idea. Very, very pro 900 IQ strats.
So while we're here, let's, Dreamcast Guy is Dreamcast Guy. If you guys know me, I do a lot of retro stuff, but oh no, I've said something bad. My stuff is way bad, or way back. It's I'm right on Commodore 64 right now, so.
Oh, wow. Gaming history stuff.
I gotta struggle through and figure out how to run it, but I'm enjoying it. Let's go through the major systems, like PlayStation, PlayStation 2, Xbox, and let's go through our favorite games or the most memorable experiences we had on that system. I know some of the stuff won't apply because I've never played Xbox 360 and the original Xbox, but let's go through. Let's start with Nintendo NES. I was like, wait, go back, brain. NES.
For me, NES was definitely the original Super Mario Brothers. Super into that. I'm pretty sure it's the only game I even had. My parents didn't really understand the idea of like buying more games at first. The idea of like I think we eventually had to tell them like, all right, you got the VCR, now you need the tapes. But yeah, I used to beat Super Mario Brothers over and over.
Yeah, for me, I think that was the same thing. Like
that
Super
game
Mario.
for me.
What, Dallas? What you got?
Mario. I didn't touch Mario until the SNES. The one game I played on on the NES was Friday the 13th.
Oh my god, I'm so sorry.
Right, like you would think, like looking at those graphics, it wouldn't be scary, but when you're young, your imagination, and it's something about video games that it fits.
But at the time, we also didn't have the graphics we do now. So those 16 8-bit games were terrifying. But I mean, you play them now, like Dreamcast guy can attest. You go back and play them, they're ugly, and they're like, okay, whatever. But back then, when you were a kid, that's all we knew.
I was much too young, though. You'll notice that a lot of my firsts, I was much too young for. Wait,
no comment.
Pause.
No comment. No comment. Pause.
Right. I think it was the appropriate age for a lot.
Are you sure about that, young man?
I think the only one that I was probably way too early for is the first time I played Silent Hill. I was probably like 9 or 10, and like the fact that
way too young.
With like a disemboweled body. I remember when I first saw that, I was just like, I think I need an adult, like instantly.
Yep, way too young for that, young man. Kev, what's your NES title?
Back then, it was really just Duck Hunt. Fond memories of Duck Hunt. That was a wonderful one. We even had a gun that actually worked, which was pretty fantastic.
The light guns are awesome.
That and Mario is pretty much it for NES. And it wasn't until SNES that we started to branch out into some other games. But even then, it was mostly just Mario related or stuff.
I'll edit it out.
But yeah, that's pretty much it for me. That was Duck Hunt. It was at my house. It was trying to get as close to the TV as I could without my mom yelling at me to get better tracking on them heckin' ducks. Man, those ducks were elusive.
That's the real strategy.
You just want to get laughed at. Like nobody wants to get roasted for not hitting a damn duck,
right? So the next console would be the SNES, Super Nintendo Entertainment System. For those of you who are too young to know what it is. What's your games?
For me, I was really into the wrestling games, and I can't even remember the names of them. And I don't really even feel like I was into pro wrestling. I think it was the first games I played that were kind of in parallel to fighting games. I didn't have Mortal Kombat or anything, so it was the first games that like let me fight my brothers in a way that mom and dad want to get mad at me about. So we would play that game, beat the hell out of each other, and then usually end up beating the hell out of each other in real life. So it kind of didn't really serve its purpose. But that, and then of course Super Mario World.
Super Mario World was a great game. Dallas, what's your game?
I just never felt it. I never really got into Mario like that. I just never really played well, let me not say that. I didn't get into the old Mario games. Like when Sunshine came along, I was like, oh my God, this is amazing.
Sunshine.
Like it's something about the GameCube so underrated. The GameCube's library, rather, is so underrated. But okay, so there was only one game I can remember playing a lot on SNES. Because I was a Sega Genesis kid. So, but Street Fighter 2 was the game that we went back and forth in a lot. Like my stepbrothers had an SNES, and we played Street Fighter 2 a lot. But I was more of a Sega Genesis kid, though.
Oh, what's he pulling out?
I was going to pull out. Do y'all ever play any of those the ROM hacks? People make the physical. These are some of my favorite things. I want to do a big video about this. I collect these now. So this is like the translation of Japanese horror game Clock Tower. And let me tell you, this is dog poop. It's a warm dog poop. It's awful. But it's for historic reasons. It's interesting. So I've been collecting these ROM hacks. It's so cool to have like an actual physical Super Nintendo to play a game that like didn't exist as a kid.
That's pretty
if you guys haven't got like, not advocating for emulation, because some of it's bad, but like ROM hacks, especially really older games, some of them make the games so good, but others are like Doogie Dog. Don't play them, but some are so good. Kev, what's your SNES title?
Mario is really the only one I remember. That was kind of at the point in my life where funds weren't available to get consoles and stuff. We somehow snagged an SNES. I think it was like a hand-me-down from somebody in the family or something like that. But I think Mario was the only game I had for it. I don't remember really getting the chance to play anything else, unless I'm misremembering here, because I don't think. Or no, that wasn't. That was an NBA Jam, was it? I'm trying to remember now. The OG
NBA
one?
Jam. NBA Jam
was on fire.
I remember playing that at a buddy's house. I never had that one myself, but that was we'd just sit there and talk crap and play that all night whenever we could get to each other's houses. Was pretty much it.
Remember when you used to sit on the
downtown?
Couch? From downtown.
Terrible shot. I like that when you missed the shot. The guy would say it line so fast. Terrible shot. It's like
dang, you didn't even
okay.
Give me a chance.
Like, thanks, guy. Man.
You coming out of the announcer box and taking that shot next time, dude?
Yeah. But nobody ever shot in that game. If you weren't dunking, like if you weren't doing 80 front flips before you slammed it down in the trail of awesome, then you weren't playing it right.
I mean, see, my brain is now getting confused with games I played recently with games I played back then. The first game, it's like the first game
it's tough to keep everything straight.
SNES was Street Fighter 2. I remember playing that and having so much fun with that game. But the game that sticks in my mind is Earthbound, but I know I didn't play it on the SNES because I didn't have it. But it's Earthbound, or there's so many games that came out then, like, and then there's the exclusive releases that didn't come out in America or Canada.
Tons of them, yeah.
Like Hagane, great game, one of the hardest games on the console. Never came out in America, Canada, whatever, North America.
What's the game that you have like fond memories of, but you don't really think it's a good game? You just have fond memories of it.
There are a lot of those. I do want to say I have one of my favorite memories is a game I didn't play as a kid. I only got a chance to play as an adult, but my cousin was better off than I was, and he had this big, huge entertainment center in the living room that they'd play in, and you couldn't even see the Super Nintendo. It was like inside of like a wooden box. You wouldn't even see what game he had on, and he was playing Chrono Trigger, and I didn't even understand what game he was coming in. And I walked in the house, and he was playing Chrono Trigger, and the graphics were so good, I thought he had a Nintendo 64 early, and he wouldn't tell me what game he was playing. And I remember just sitting there for like an hour and seeing Chrono Trigger and just being like, oh my God, this is the future of gaming. And like, it wasn't until I was like, 10 years later that I looked into it and I was like, oh, that was Chrono Trigger I was seeing. I love those kind of gaming memories of like the mystery of it, of like, how is this? It was all magic to us as kids.
It's just working. Yeah, it's like, we don't have that magic no more. Now it's just like something dope will come out, something that's genuinely cooler than everything you've seen in a long time. And people will like burn it to the ground.
Because people just can't be happy.
No real reason. Just, like burn it to the ground.
Yeah.
And this is why I don't get in console wars, and I've said this on the show several times before. I don't get in console wars because I remember a time when I couldn't, like, my first PlayStation was from a pawn shop because I just couldn't afford anything. So I'm from that mindset of, I couldn't afford it, now I can, so I'm just going to enjoy playing whatever I can, wherever I can. I don't get into that console war stuff. Like, I was poor.
A game that I thought, like, that objectively is probably a pretty bad game. It's probably horrible, but I was so attached to it just because I like anime games. On the GameCube, and I still to this day cannot find the game. No. Even though like the J-Stars Victory and J-Stars Victory Versus and all, I own those.
I like those, yeah.
But Zoids Battle Legends.
Oh my God. I thought it was an actual hidden gem. What?
No, like I told you, I prefaced this by saying, look, this game is horrible. I know it's not an objectively good game, but I was really into Zoids. I'm really into anime in general.
Bro, like, you plot twists. I thought this is like being like, my favorite Pokemon is the Digimon. Like, you
but if you want to talk about hidden gems on the GameCube, then one game.
We're not there yet. We're not there yet.
Well, let's go there then at some point today.
We will. We're going through. So now let's get into, at that same time, there was a buttload of handhelds. Game Boy, Linux, I don't know anybody that play, or Lynx, the Atari Lynx, don't know anybody that played that. Game Gear and Turbo Express. What's your favorite game from any of those? Probably going to be the Game Boy. The brick.
Yeah, so I'm super obsessed with Game Boy collecting. I actually have hundreds of games. I have all the different versions of Game Boy, including the Game Boys that weren't released in America, like Game Boy Light. Super into Game Boy collecting. As a kid, though, I only had one thing, which was the giant brick Game Boy, which is so big I had to build a hip holster. It's like the size of my tiny frame. But I was so into Pokemon. I moved a lot as a kid. We moved like every 6 months, and that was my language. That was my vocabulary. Everywhere I'd go, I'd find the kids on the playground who were playing Pokemon, and I'd trade Pokemon to basically get into their like friend circle. And I mean, it was like survival. And so I just have so many great memories of like training Pokemon and going to Safari Zone and beating the gym leaders and finishing my Pokedex and then getting a Game Shark and having hacked Pokemon. So many great memories.
Don't know that term. I don't know what a Game Shark is. Explain it for the young kids.
There's some cops in the chat. Oh, God.
Anything about Game Shark.
Yo, Game Shark.
Like, at that age, if it weren't for Game Shark, I wouldn't know anything about a piece of tofu in Resident Evil 2.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for PlayStation Magazine giving me the codes that I had to wait every month to go buy the codes for these games, I wouldn't know anything I know about half the games I do. Dude, remember Magazine, guys? You had to go to the store and buy it?
And like in the back of them, they had codes?
Yeah, I used to live near a bookstore. I was so poor I couldn't buy any of the books, so I'd go in there with a piece of paper and like the worst stealthy person, I'd write down the cheat codes and then run out. Like, are they going to arrest me for taking the information out of books?
Young man, come here, young man. You've written down these codes.
Give me the paper.
Give me the paper. You cannot play GTA with these codes, sir.
Please, I need a jetpack.
But you know what, though? I was that kid in that bookstore doing that same thing. And once I was finally starting to, like, make some money on my own, you know what the first thing, like the thing I would buy religiously was at that time? I hope y'all can get with me.
Nintendo Power?
Freaking Shonen Jump.
Oh, really? No.
Shonen Jump.
I had to read those a little bit, but I got really into strategy guide collecting. I have like hundreds of strategy guides. I'm so fascinated by because I when I learned the fact that the people, when they were finishing up the game, they would hire a professional writer to come to the studio and play like the final beta version of the game and write the strategy. I was so fascinated by like the idea of like journalists trying to beat these unfinished Final Fantasies to tell you what Sin's weakness is. So it's kind of like that I got really into collecting those.
Man, I picked up a few. I wasn't really like a big strategy guide person. I was always like, I at least need to beat the game once or twice before I like find a strategy guide for it.
Yeah.
But some of them like I pick up just because it's cool. Like this one right here, right? This is Watch Dogs, a strategy guide to Watch Dogs.
Ooh, that's a thick boy. Damn, boy, that's a thick ass boy.
So much stuff in here. Like I'm usually I'm the person that's picking up like the character stuff. Like I got a big book that tells you like everything about like Spider-Man. I have another one about everything about Black Panther. What's the most recent one I got? What's that? Doctor Strange. Like I like weird stuff like this, dope stuff like. But strategy guides, one of the few that I have is this one, and Final Fantasy 15.
Yeah, Final Fantasy 15 one's good. I got that. I have the ones for the first ones I wanted to track down is all the Final Fantasies. So I even have them for the awful ones like Final Fantasy 13 Special Collections.
Hey!
Like,
I love Final Fantasy 13. I'm also playing Commodore games, so you can't blame me.
I started
too. Well, I'm replaying. So I'm working on a secret project. I'm doing like a re-review of 13. So I'm beating it right now. And I will say, parts of that had aged better. I still don't like the leveling system. That's my biggest problem.
That's the biggest problem.
Graphically, it looks modern. I'm playing on the Xbox One, so it auto upscales it. It looks modern. It's crazy to me.
Like I love Final Fantasy 13. I just love.
I haven't been able to get into 13.
Really?
Is it like one of those things where just give it X amount of hours and you'll fall in love. I mean, it's one of those situations.
It gets a lot better about 15 hours in, and it sucks that it requires that much investment, but I think 15 hours in, it does get better. The biggest thing that turns me off as a Final Fantasy fan is that you can't power level. I love over grinding. The fact that they have the paradigm system, you can't or the crystallum, you can't just power level. I hate that it's like there's a boss. The boss is always supposed to be 3 levels higher than you, even if you kill 1,000 mobs. It's like, oh, that's not fun.
That's the only thing that sucks in the game. Like, I think Lightning is a great character. I know a lot of people don't like her. I like the whole story that they followed with 13 and 13.2 and then Lightning Returns. But that thing would kill it for a lot of people. But if we
need to go back and play, that whole series.
Final Fantasy is like
a chance that it gets better later on in the game. Among people that's like, I don't mind it. Like a lot of people are like, well, I got to put that much time in before. No, like
it
if
definitely
the story
gets better.
is good, I'm there. Like if the lore is fire, I'm in there. But
I would say Final Fantasy. If you never played a Final Fantasy, which I don't know how most people have never played a Final Fantasy. It's like if you've never watched Neon Genesis Evangelion. There's like 37 timelines in that thing. Everything's going, so like it's all blends together into one, but it's all its own separate thing. So I know a lot of people don't like to play games in series like Persona. People want to play Persona 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's like, first of all, Persona 1 is extremely hard to find, and it's expensive. Persona 2, same. Persona 3, same. But like Persona 4 is accessible, and like you can play Persona 4 without playing Persona 5. Same with Final Fantasy. You can play Final Fantasy 7 and not play Final Fantasy 13, or vice versa.
I didn't mean when I asked that question, I didn't mean like because I know there's no real continuity in most of them, but is it like, should I play it as a fan of the series, basically, as well?
As a fan of my bad, go ahead.
Okay. Absolutely. As a fan of the series, even if you don't finish it, I think it's very interesting. There's actually a lot of actors in it stuff that went on to be famous. Like, weirdly enough, what's his name? The guy's
turn-based combat in that one?
It is turn-based, but you only can control the main character, and instead you like set modes for your party. So you basically like a healer mode, and so you'll. But yeah, the weirdest thing about Final Fantasy 13 is how the games keep getting better. Like if you do the whole trilogy. 13.2 is actually really good, and 13.3 is great. It's just like, man, I really wish you
step that up earlier.
Yeah. Oh man, I know I get a lot of hate for it, but I hated Type 0 because Type 0 is in the 13 universe. It was the Novala. I hate Type 0.
It's weird. Like it's really weird.
I mean, it's a high school with like magic kids who can shoot cards and stuff. It's just like, what?
Makes sense.
A weird version of Yu-Gi-Oh!
I watch anime. This is nothing new to me. You're basically describing your run-of-the-mill high school anime.
I'm so into Final Fantasy, I tracked down all the versions of it. So I actually have the original printing of the Japanese version of Type 0 because that was only on PSP.
Oh, nice.
I've been looking for that. It's so expensive.
I think I got it for $12. There's just that weird pop. You know how it goes is whenever the hacking scene increases, the value of physical stuff plummets, and this was at the peak. So I have like 80 PSP games, and I got almost all of them for $1.
Oh, when I come down to Texas, y'all, we gonna hang out and we gonna play so many games.
Hell yeah.
I'm gonna steal that Dreamcast guy hat. Dallas ain't
I was dating somebody for a while, and I made her a Dreamcast gal hat. So there's actually a Dreamcast gal hat that exists as well. And I was like, someday I'm going to eBay this shit for charity or something.
Man.
Right? So, what were we on? Game Boy?
Yeah.
Pokemon, and some more Pokemon. However, I got a Game Boy. I had a Game Boy Advance. It took a long time.
We're not there yet.
Fine. You play Game Boy. This is the closest I got to Game Boy.
Okay.
We'll do all of our handheld because some people never played a Game Boy.
Yeah. I mean, we can separate this from Switch.
That's another beast.
Me, because I was too broke. So,
toss all them in there.
I did have a Game Boy Advance, and let me tell you, I would play Golden Sun until the sun came.
Yes. Hell yes.
that's a very underrated RPG. I did not play what was it? The New Age? Not the New Age. Whichever one came out on DS. The one that came out on DS. I did not get to touch that because I never picked up a DS because why? But I didn't. Like Golden Sun was one of those games I would play a lot. Another one was a lot of people didn't touch this, but Onimusha Tactics.
Onimusha Tactics. I have a video written that I never published. I was going to put best games that are ripoffs that are actually great, and that was going to be one of because let's face it, it's just 100% that was Final Fantasy Tactics Advanced, but Onimusha and actually great. It was like
absolutely,
this is great.
It's like I like Onimusha is one of my favorite series ever created. Like it's something about that samurai thing. So to have Onimusha Tactics, that was one of the games that I played like way too much. Okay, and you're gonna make fun of me for this. You're gonna say
I always make fun of you.
Super nerdy geek for this, but
is that what you left to get?
Y'all remember when Yu-Gi-Oh did like Dungeon Dice Monsters?
Yeah, I know what you're talking
about. You remember they had a game on Advance?
Yeah.
But I love Yu-Gi-Oh, so I ain't gonna dump on you for that.
Dude, I was so broke in high school, and one of my friends had a HD printer and a laminator. And I'll be honest, the way we would make our lunch money, because we were so poor, is we would print bootleg Yu-Gi-Oh cards and sell them to all the rich kids. So it's like, you want Exodia, $9? I'll go obliterate your wallet.
I may have done that a couple times too.
Yeah, and we were like, look, if they investigate this in a tournament, you'll be banned. But if we're just some friends on the playground, who cares?
Why not?
Exodia hand job, bro.
Well, we're still on. Oh my god. Well, we're still on Yu-Gi-Oh. Y'all try to watch the new anime. How painful that is.
I have.
Oh no, I stopped watching once 5Ds came.
Yeah,
actually once GX
came. The motorcycles were too much for me.
Yeah, it's so
like
bad.
Don't get me wrong. I still play the games here and there.
Oh yeah.
I don't. All these new mechanics, I actually like. I need a refresher course, to figure out how to play again.
I need my trap card, my magic card, put it in attack, defense. That's it.
Yeah.
Don't give me this. Oh, and the sacrifice when you would sacrifice the one card for the other, or the summons. Cool. It was easy. The new stuff is just like you got to pull it out your ass. You got to send it to your grandma.
Magic the Gathering, huh?
No, Magic.
I play Magic.
Fire, though. Yeah. Magic was fire.
Magic goes ham with the mechanics, dude. It's
but Magic is.
If it's a Tuesday and it's cloudy outside and the light is hitting this card at a 30-degree angle and you have a shine counter on it and your opponent's wearing a red shirt and your life total is at 30 or more, you win the game. GG, easy clap. Let's go.
It's D&D card game.
But Magic has stayed the same. Yu-Gi-Oh is evolved into something god awful. I don't know what it is now.
I wonder
Magic's
if it's
always been
profitable.
complicated.
Did y'all ever play?
It is profitable. They have the mobile and it's on Steam. The card game, Duel Links.
Oh, well, yeah,
I have it on my phone.
Duel Links is actually pretty fire though.
It is.
It's like they have a format called Speed
It follows
Duels.
the old rules
That's
too.
Speed Duels is kind of like condensed mini Yu-Gi-Oh, and that's basically what Duel Links is.
That sounds freaking awesome, honestly.
It's really good.
I remember about my time playing Yu-Gi-Oh when I collected the cards and everything was I had a shiny time wizard, and that was my goal. Every game was shiny time wizard. Flip a coin. You either win or lose. Let's go.
I have so many Yu-Gi-Oh cards.
Yu-Gi-Oh. We used to really, really play for real. Did y'all play any other card games that came out?
Digimon.
Other than Magic? Digimon?
I was really into the Pokemon card game for a couple of years. So I really got burned out on card games, though, just because I like video games a lot, obviously the visual aspect. And also, most of the people, we were just so poor that you'd get your starter deck and you'd never get another card ever. So you kind of just burn out of all right, there's only so many ways this game can play.
Yeah. You know what's funny about that? I was just talking about my Game Boy Advance. And we all said, we was broke back then. And one of the games that I was able to get was Pokemon trading card game for Game Boy Color.
Yeah, I got that too. Yeah, and I like that a lot. That's really good. I never did. There's apparently a bunch of secret bosses or something there. I never did that. I just beat the game and I went, "This is awesome," and then I kind of put it down. The music in that game is way too good. It's weird,
right?
It's crazy.
I don't know who in Japan was in the '90s dropping ass.
They was in the studio
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly. Pikachu, come in. It's like, I like
it. Kev, what's your Game Boy either brick that you could knock somebody out with, or Game Boy Color Advanced, all them?
For me, it was the brick for sure. It's just Pokemon was really all it was for me. That was the only game I ever really got into on Game Boy. I remember my mom was like, she was dating somebody who lived up in like the DFW area at the time, and we lived down near Houston. So I remember driving up, making weekend trips to go up there to visit, and every time we would drive up, I'd make her stop at every store along the way and be like, do they have red? Because we got blue last time and red was sold out everywhere. Do they have red? And then we'd grab yellow and everything else. So like each year we'd make a trip, there'd be a new Pokemon game out, and I was ready to secure it. So we had to stop at 8 different super Walmarts along the way to finally grab the bag.
If y'all are too young out there to know what a Game Boy looks like, I do have a Game Boy Color.
Do you have one?
I'm about to grab mine. I have my brick as well. Yeah.
It's just a little color. If you don't know what this is, you too young to be watching this, first of all. But this was the stuff you played on your phone. This was your phone before your phone came around. This was the thing you had fun with. There's a little, you see that? That's a little cartridge slot for the games. They would clunk
Wait,
right in.
What's a cartridge? What's a cartridge?
I don't think I'm the authority for that. I think Dreamcast guy is.
Physical app. No, my favorite, like on the Pokemon subject is a year before I actually got the game, I found somebody had, I don't remember why I was in a dumpster, but I was in a dumpster and I found a strategy guide for Red and Blue. And I don't know why, but I studied it page to page. I would read the strategy guide again and again and again, and I memorized where all the hidden items were. So when I finally got Red, because I ended up getting Pokemon Red, I was like the master of it on the playground, who could like tell you where things were at, and I knew like which zones you would get each Pokemon, and I became like kind of the Bulbapedia, and it was very, very like, I don't know, it was like important to me as a kid, where knowledge was power.
Yeah. I mean,
I think people
social
need to
currency, especially on the playground.
I mean, back in the day, you guys won't. Not you guys, because y'all are older than me, but whoever's listening, the big thing was Sega or Nintendo. Which one you support? That was the playground argument. Like, there was clear defined sides of you Nintendo, you Sega. And
that's when console wars was actually fun and nobody died. Right.
And then the companies would jab at each other in their ads. Those were so vicious.
Like Sega do what Nintendo don't, like.
Oh god, yeah.
Speaking of, hold up.
I love strategy guides also. I'm gonna chip this in before we move on. Oh wow, what's that? I can't. I don't have my glasses on. Hold on.
Champions. What? Eternal Champions, right?
Yep.
It's like I don't have my glasses. I can't see a god dang thing.
It's a little bit blown out, but yeah, Eternal Champions. Yeah.
Strategy guides. If you guys don't, whoever's listening, pick them up. You should. If you're like me, who is an artist who makes art for a living, a lot of the times they have exclusive art that won't be in the art book.
That's what I loved about them. That was so cool.
Like, give me 2 secs.
Strategy guide. Right, I'm about to start grabbing some. I have hundreds over here. I'm so bad. And now I've been collecting the art books now, too, because that's the strategy guides of the gateway drug for sure.
Man. Okay, so you know what? While we're talking about art books, I got 2 I want to share with y'all. One is because I'm a big Metal Gear fan. I'm a big Kojima fan.
Oh, like, nice. I respect that, man.
People roast me for it, but like, fight me. I don't care. Like the Metal Gear Solid 4.
Oh my gosh, dude, nice. Yeah. Oh, like, that's so good.
It's such good stuff in here. But also, I don't know if y'all seen this around, but I saw it around a lot of different places. Hip hop covers. It's hip hop, like famous hip hop album covers redone as like with Marvel characters. So like Get Rich or Die Trying 50 Cent, but it's Iron Man.
Dreamcast went to our Dreamcast baby just went to go grab some.
Oh yeah. Like Wale album, but it's Deadpool. Wade. And it's a lot of super dope albums redone with Marvel characters.
Oh yeah. I remember when that came out. Yeah.
But like, this is the Tomb Raider. Like, there's so much exclusive art. Oh, hold on. Let me not. Exclusive art that's only in the strategy guides that you only see in the strategy guide. It's like, if you're an art lover, go get these things and go pick them up.
I'm super into maps, especially as a kid. I was so fascinated just about topography, and that was so cool of when you got the Resident Evil strategy guides. A lot of the Resident Evil strategy guides, because no physical maps existed, a lot of times they would actually draw each room and draw the items in it. So it'd be like, oh, you need to go in here and solve this puzzle, and there'd be a drawing of the map, and that was the only time that map would ever exist. And it was so fascinating to me to just see like this different representation. This is the stuff I'm into now, though, is a lot of these Ultimanias. Like now these are cool.
Yeah.
It's like the concept art, and it's like developer notes and stuff. And I'm like having to hold my push to talk, but it's like more than just like it's definitely not a strategy guide. It's more of a making of. But I'm always fascinated now about like how is the peanut butter made kind of thing. I'm both interested in the fact that like 25 dudes sat down in the 80s in Japan and said like, hey, yeah, let's make a genre. That's so cool.
Yeah. I just got something magical about like just sitting in a room with an idea and writing some stuff down, and next thing you know, like it's a thing.
Yeah. Well,
it's a thing.
It's like us, like right here, we're sitting down and we're just chilling. Like imagine if we just went like, all right, like let's learn programming, and like, all right, you make the beats and let's do it. And it's so cool to think about that people did that. Like it became the art we all changed our lives with. That.
Like I just got I haven't finished reading it yet. Is the Tomb Raider? They put the 20th anniversary edition on PlayStation, but then I got the Making of Tomb Raider 20th anniversary book. Like it's a hardcover book.
Whoa.
Let me go pull it up, but I'll pull it up and then I'll talk.
I love this. This is the kind of stuff that's so fun to me. Is that like I feel like gaming culture has gotten so much more positive. Like people will harp on a game here and there, but I feel like it's so much more a celebration of love, especially in the last couple of years. People want to be like, look at this crazy thing,
And that's what the dopest stuff is. Like, I mean, people are like getting married in World of Warcraft and having funerals and stuff, and like it's something crazy that connects everybody. Like there's not many things that can have this many people on one accord.
So this is the big one. My friend that worked at GameStop, or it's EB Games here in Canada, saved it for me. Let's make sure it's not blown out. It is a little bit.
It still looks cool.
Yeah, it still looks dope.
But like hundreds of contributors went in, put in stories, art. There's all kinds of stuff from the book and the games. But that's the stuff I love. I've been doing writing a series on defunct studios and just the love and care that went into some of these studios. Like right now I'm working on Emerald Software. They're a small studio from Ireland, and they did a lot of arcade port stuff. And I was like, I love the visuals and I love the games, but I want to hear the people behind it, because so often when we're playing Red Dead Redemption, we forget about the people that made them. And I just want those stories.
Yeah. I like to read there's a lot of books about that. There's a lot of like books talking, just like no pictures, just kind of talking about how stuff was made. And there's one that I really like called Masters of Doom that came out in the early 2000s.
I've heard about that.
It's so interesting to talk, because they straight up just like, they made Doom and they threw it out there, and they were just like instant mega millionaires. And they talk about like what that was like to be in the 90s. They have a story of they're walking down the street and they're wearing like cut off jeans and look like little grunge kids, and they saw a guy loading an arcade cabinet into a truck, and they said, how many thousands of dollars do I have to pay you to instead put that in the back of my car? And the guy was like, what? It's like, oh yeah, we're rich. I want to buy that arcade cabinet right now in cash. And the guy was like, okay. And they talk about just like just the craziness of it. But then they also tell interesting stories. Like one of my favorites is that they sat down and they were like, hey, Nintendo has this great console. Like, it's super cool that the NES exists. I bet these guys don't know what PC ports are. So let's make a PC port. So they just, without permission, completely made Super Mario Brothers 3 on PC. They managed to make it own engine. They made it perfectly. They flew to Japan, talked to Nintendo, managed to get in there, and they said that Nintendo like let them into the main office and they set up the PC and they played the opening level and like all the heads of Nintendo watched it. And they said to the translators, and the translators like, delete this code, leave the room, never talk about this meeting. And they're like, okay,
okay, bye.
Man, that sounds like some mafia shit to me.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
like, okay.
It's Nintendo. Yeah. I mean,
Like,
the scene is still alive. If you guys know speed runs, you know how alive Doom and all that stuff is. You need to get the stories behind it sometimes, because the stories are more interesting than the games itself half the time, especially like Tomb Raider. Start off with like 6 people and then they expanded. It's like, I love those stories.
While we talking about like how games are made, do y'all ever look at like certain mechanics or certain things that are done in one game and see it done in another, and you like, I really hope that keeps living on? Like, you know how you see how say Gears like cover system, and then you see other games use that cover system, and you like, that made gaming better.
Yeah,
I'm sure they weren't the first to do it, but you know,
the Nemesis system in freaking Shadow of War. It's crazy that they made like algorithm-based bad guys who feel original, who have voice acting, who have motivations. Like, it's weird that every one of those wasn't custom crafted bad guys. I always thought, man, everybody's gonna rip this off. Like, every game is just gonna have infinite badasses now. Nope, that one game had it, and then it just died.
That was
like,
that should have continued.
Some of that though. Like, I had 2 instances that I was thinking about where this applies. One was, if you watch Ghost of Tsushima, people are talking about how like, oh, it makes me feel like Breath of the Wild. You want to explore and blah blah. But like, the first thing that hit me was Red Dead 2.
Oh yeah.
Like, you could play no HUD and the world will tell you where you need to go, what you're trying to do, and like, it just feels like Red Dead 2 to me. And in that same way, thinking about like the Decima engine, Horizon Zero Dawn 2, and what like that game would learn from Death Stranding.
Right. Well, that reminds me of Dead Space. Dead Space, the developers were talking a lot about in interviews before the first Dead Space came out. They're like, we want this to be the first like no HUD shooter. So that's why like your spinal light is actually your health bar. Your gun physically has a little counter on it that's big enough that you can see it even though the camera's zoomed out. They're like, we want to make it where like nothing at all is on the screen. And even when you open up your inventory, it's just a little hologram that pops up. They're like, we want this to basically be a no HUD experience.
And stuff like that. Like, look at that evolution from that to what they did with Red Dead, which it wasn't no HUD, but it could be.
Yeah,
it's close enough. And like, just watching those things evolve, one idea in one game that people see as groundbreaking in some way, and may not even really realize the magnitude, but it leaks off into other games, and it makes the medium whole better.
That's part of why I'm obsessed with Shenmue. Is I genuinely consider Shenmue to be the first single-player open-world experience where you could go and do side quests, you could just do nothing, you could get a job, you could make a bunch of money, you could hang out, you could find random people, you could just sit in a park and do martial arts for 8 hours. It was the first game where it was like, there is a story that is optional. That was the first game where I was like, wow, beating it is not required. I love that.
We all know Shenmue died so Yakuza could live, though.
Yeah, woman after my own heart. I'm such a Yakuza fan. Oh, hell yeah.
Like, we'll get into it when we're still on the 5th gen, or whatever PlayStation 1 is, but we'll get into it with the PS2s. Because I have Game Pass. At first I was sleeping on it, and now they're releasing all the Yakuza games, and I'm like, I haven't played these since PlayStation 2. I need to get into these games, and I forgot how weird they are.
Oh, I know, absolutely. That guy answers a phone like he's having a heart attack.
Mush mush.
I love that.
But you know what? Nobody would answer the phone. Nobody would ever answer the phone in a better way than Dante from Devil May Cry 3.
Oh, yeah. I was playing that, and I just like how everything in that game was so randomly slow-mo. Like, eating a piece of pizza is like, it's like, why
cinematic.
Is everything so hot. Random? I love that.
It's sexy.
It is. It's true. That man's shirtless. I'm like, all right, bro, I'll eat the pizza off you. I'm all right. I'm down.
Right?
Pause.
So we are into the what is this? The 5th generation. So I don't think anybody here played the Amiga CD32.
No. There was a lot of consoles I didn't see because I grew up poor. I only saw the most mainstream of mainstream stuff. Like I didn't even see a Sega Saturn. I never saw a Sega Saturn until I was like 25.
Damn, I didn't own a Sega Genesis. I played Mortal Kombat on my parents' friend's console. We have the Atari Jaguar, 3DO, the PCFX, Sega 32X.
Yeah, right. These are fake consoles.
These are all 94, 95. Virtual Boy.
You're this off of Wikipedia right now.
Yeah, I am, because some of these I've played, but other people haven't played. Virtual Boy, Sega Saturn, the PlayStation, the N64, and the Apple Pippin. Who cares about Apple? Let's talk about the big boys. PlayStation and N64.
Man, but PlayStation.
Yeah. I had two main friends, and one of them had a Nintendo 64 and one of them had a PlayStation, and it was such different experiences because we would be able to play Smash Brothers, and holy heck was Mario 64 a hugely influential game. But once we started playing PlayStation, it felt like we just left Nintendo 64 behind. Like Tony Hawk was huge to us. Tony Hawk and Crash Bandicoot were just those games that you played, like before we started getting into the Final Fantasies. That was the games that we played that felt like these require reaction speed, and they punish mistakes in a way that's not just losing a life. Like screwing up a trick mattered. It was those games that felt like, okay, these are games made that adults would like.
Yep. PlayStation really did feel like and that's always kind of been the shtick, is Nintendo is family oriented, and the other consoles, now Xboxes, and there is more adult stuff. But PlayStation at that time felt like, especially like, what was it? Dino Crisis came out at that time. It was just, those are the adult games, and that's the adult platform that you need to play if you're an adult. If you like kid stuff, go play Nintendo.
Yeah. And now Nintendo is just like kid stuff until like the Wii came along and they got like Mad World and Resident Evil 4 and like all of a sudden they want to grow up fast. But like, yeah, the PlayStation was that console for me. I had two separate, like, I don't even know what to call them, phases with the PlayStation. Like, okay, so my step pops had a PlayStation. And this is what made me be like, oh, I'm a gamer, and I'm a gamer forever. Because Resident Evil 1, like I mentioned earlier, Nightmare Creatures. Then I had a homie that Tenchu Stealth Assassins. And that just like, something clicked in my brain about ninjas. It was over at that point.
Ninjas get you, man.
Man. And those were like the main games, other than like the stuff that other people play, Spyro, Crash, whatever. But then later down the line, I got to play the games that I missed out on. And that's when Metal Gear Solid came in. That's when stuff like that, Metal Gear Solid, Silent Hill, all the stuff that I missed out on when it was new, I ended up playing.
PlayStation doesn't get it gets the credit it deserves, but sometimes I feel like a lot of people are like, oh, it's archaic. Especially nowadays, it's archaic, it doesn't matter, whatever. No, PlayStation is that bitch, as they say. Yeah. Do the kids still say that?
Did they ever say
You're asking the wrong crowd what the kids say.
It's like, I don't know what the kids say nowadays, but it's like, it's right. That bitch.
Yeah, PS1 is responsible for me being a lifelong gamer. I played games before, but like once I touched the PS1, it was like, this is what I'm doing with my life.
That was my gateway drug to RPGs. I'm super lifelong RPG fan. I had never really seen turn-based combat until the PlayStation. And so funny enough, we got into Final Fantasy VII when Final Fantasy VIII came out. My friend's brother had both, and we tried to play Final Fantasy VIII, and we just thought, like, this is so complicated. This guy's got a gun, sword. Like, we can't, this is too hard. I was like, all right, I bet Final Fantasy VII will dumb it down because each of the Mega Man games get harder and harder. So, of course, Final Fantasy VII has to be easier. That was like our child logic. So we started with 7 and got super into it.
Lies. They all lied to you. But yeah, right, Tony Hawk was my ish back in the day. God,
my favorite thing about Tony Hawk
I wish they wouldn't be an Epic Games exclusive because I play on PC. But I already emulate it, so console. I emulate it, so it don't matter.
Oh no! I mean, yeah, you got the superior version anyway. Because I feel like if Pro Skater 2 does not have Spider-Man, and I can't do the does whatever Spider can trick, like I don't care.
Love that. I love that trick where you float off your skateboard and then web it back to you. So good.
And I showed this.
Spider-Man is one of my favorite heroes, though. So
I showed this before on a podcast, but one of my favorite yet most hated games, and I'm so glad I got it for like $20 on eBay, is Japan exclusive. Cowboy Bebop. Only.
Oh wow.
It's like beautiful, and it's one of my favorite games that I hate because it has horrible combat. If you guys have played the Reboot, oh god, now I feel old. If you play Reboot on PS1, it's the same combat, or Ghost in the Shell. Yeah. It's horrible combat, but I love Cowboy Bebop so much that when it was on sale, I was like, I'm not paying $400 for it. I'm gonna pay $20 for it.
That's why I'm secretly obsessed with Star Trek. I'm super into Star Trek. Even reading
I don't think it's a secret anymore, baby.
Well, and so they're almost every Star Trek game is just garbage. Like there's a couple strategy games that aren't as bad, but they're about as fun as doing your taxes. They're just all so boring. And they released a couple on PlayStation. I bought those too. It's just like, oh god, it's just not a good generation. People were trying on PlayStation, but they couldn't quite get it yet.
I mean, there's some good ones, but not many.
I think that the thing that people kind of forget now is that in the PlayStation era, and game developers talk about this, they were inventing 3D controls. Mm-hmm. There was no manual. None of this stuff had ever existed before. That's why when you play Siphon Filter, all the shooting buttons being on the top and aiming with your triggers and stuff, it's like, it didn't exist. I mean, it's like if you just walked up to a car and somebody was like, how do you drive this? Like, I don't know. Do I sit in the back seat and reach to the pedals? Like, nobody's done this before. I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah. You're just figuring it out.
So I'm going to read through a list quickly. We can all give our opinions after of what the best PS1 games were. And I got to agree with the first one, which is Castlevania Symphony of the Night, Metal Gear Solid, Twisted Metal 2, Legacy of Kain, Soul Reaver, Siphon Filter. Man, that was a good series.
I love Siphon Filter. Hell yeah.
Ace Combat 2. Mega Man Legends 2, Tomb Raider 2, Bushido Blade, Tekken 3, Street Fighter Alpha 3, Darkstalkers 3, Crash Bandicoot, Oddworld, Abe's Exodus, Rayman, Spyro, don't know what that one is, Jumping Flash, don't know what, Ape Escape, that's another good one. Skip the puzzle games, Gran Turismo 2, Wipeout XL, Crash Team Racing, Ridge Racer 4, Driver, You Are the Wheelman, Parappa the Rapper, I forgot about Parappa, Final Fantasy again, Chrono Cross, Xenogears, Vagrant Story, another Final Fantasy 7, Suikoden 2, Legend of Mana, Wild Arms, Legend of Dragoon, Legend of Legaia.
I always forget how to pronounce it too.
Parasite Eve, Medal of Honor, Pro Skater 2, Madden NFL 98, Final Fantasy Tactics, Resident Evil 2, Silent Hill, Resident Evil, Dino Crisis, and that's it. Jesus, that's a lot of games.
That's a long list.
That's it, she says.
When we get to the PS2, don't do this, because that list.
Well, I was expecting more. I was scrolling down. I was like, okay, we're at Dino Crisis. Oh, okay, that's the end of the list.
Oh,
yeah.
Fame, we're not done.
Look who it is. What's happening?
He's muted.
He's muted. He halfway joined us.
But I think we can all agree that Symphony of the Night is probably the best game on the console. One of the best, I should say.
I'll say one of. The thing is that the competition is so fierce, it's hard to crown a victor. But yeah, oh my gosh, Symphony of the Night is crazy good.
Man, ¿por qué? Para aqui,
Never
papi.
mind. That would have started the whole thing. I was about to say something about the Castlevania Netflix series, but that would have started the whole thing.
Oh, that's so
we're gonna
good.
get into adaptations. Yeah, I love that, but no, we can't go down that.
Twisted Metal, Legacy of Kain.
Legacy of Kain.
Siphon Filter. What happened to that?
So they still existed until a couple of years ago. I own a lot of them. They released them on. They started a separate series on PSP and PS2, but the PSP ones were the real ones, called Dark Mirror and Logan Shadow.
I did hear about those.
They even had online play that still was up for until a couple of years ago, so I'd actually play it online. But they really kind of went off the rails a little bit, because the whole point originally was like this apocalyptic computer virus called Siphon Filter, and it was so focused. And as it went on and on and on, it's like, all right, motherfucker, are you gonna release this or not? Or like, are we dead? Right. Or sorry, I mean to swear, but yeah, it's just one of those things of like, it went on and went on and on. But I like the early trilogy. I love. They aged bad. If you haven't played Siphon Filter before, you probably can't pick it up today. It's not accessible, but it was great for the time.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of games that you go back and it's like, oh, no, you're bad. Fame, what you want? Fame, go away.
Tell me y'all played, well, I know you probably have, Indigo Prophecy / Fahrenheit.
That was recently on sale on Humble Bundle.
I played it, and I played its unknown predecessor that nobody talks about called Omicron.
That's the name of that game. I could not remember the name of this game.
I've never heard of that.
So it is this very bizarre game. Is extremely weird for multiple reasons. One of them is the fact that David Bowie was obsessed with the game before it came out. So David Bowie did the soundtrack and put a bunch of his music on. The whole game is scored by David Bowie, and the way they tried to pay him back is in money, of course, but also at one point you go to a bar and digital David Bowie is there, and there's just like a 6-minute concert scene in the middle of like the game. Super weird. The bizarre mechanic about Omicron, though, is that they come to you at the beginning and they're like, "Hello, I'm talking to you through your Dreamcast. I'm about to die. You have to take over my body. Since you're not from this world, the first person to touch your body, each time you die, you'll go into their body. So you basically are a just walking zombie almost. So you play as a cop at the start, and when that person dies, first person touches your body. So it's super weird. You become a stripper at one point and you ask questions and you're trying to investigate. One of the cheat codes that everybody loved back in the day, though, is that since you can body swap, people figured out, okay, if you die in this part of town, this person will touch your body and you'll take over them. You could, before the beginning intro where you meet your family and stuff, you could go and die and become a female character. And then when you meet your wife, she's like, "Oh, David, I'm so glad you're here." And there's a girl-on-girl sex scene. In 1999, it was a girl-on-girl sex scene. That's, of course, like two kids bumping against each other. But at the time, we were like, this is Playboy for nerds. It was so good.
And people thought hot coffee was controversial.
Exactly.
I hate that I missed out on that. I'm not going to lie. It's bizarre enough to be fun.
It's actually pretty good. The weirdest part about it, though, is that it would change like gameplay styles for different story missions. So sometimes it was a first-person shooter. Sometimes it was like an RPG. A lot of times it was like a 3D platformer where you had to jump around. It was too much. I mean, obviously it's David Cage, so it's like Fahrenheit and all the other games he's made. The guy just loves throwing in everything.
At least it's not Bubsy.
Sometimes you need the weird shit. Like sometimes that's what you need in your life.
Kojima fills that weird shit for me. Adult Swim.
Anytime people try and hate on Kojima, I'm like, dude, at least it's polished weirdness. At least it's like good gameplay and stuff. It's not too erratic. It's just, it's machines and ghost babies, but at least it's focused ghost babies.
Exactly. Right? I don't know.
What's your PS1 and 64 goodness?
Oh, wait. 64. No, I'm sure.
So back then, N64 was like my social console, I guess. That was usually what I played with my buddies or with my family, sometimes my cousins and stuff. So a lot of that for me was either GoldenEye or Mario Kart were kind of like the main two. That was what we always liked to play together. And F-Zero X as well was a favorite of mine. And then for PlayStation, I never owned a PS1 myself. A buddy of mine when I was growing up had one that lived on the next street over, and I would go over there and watch him play Legend of Dragoon and Final Fantasy VIII. And that was my first experience with a Final Fantasy series, and I fell in love with 8 so much. And I'll never forget, it's going to be one of my lifelong memories. We're just sitting there in his room. He's playing through, I come over, he's playing through one of the latter boss fights. I don't remember exactly which boss it was, but he's sweating, he's stressed. He's like, man, I've tried this fight 8 times, and I keep getting my ass kicked. What am I supposed to do? And he's burning all his summons and everything. He's going through everything, trying to finish this boss. And the whole time, I'm just sitting behind him. I'm like, dude, use Tonberry King. Dude, Tonberry King. Dude, Tonberry King. Dude, use Tonberry King. Just getting at his nerves, driving him insane. And finally, he summoned everything else. And he's like, fine, screw it, whatever. And he uses Tonberry King. And if you guys have watched it before, the little summoning circle pops up.
Yep.
It comes up out of the ground. And then he just scuttles up to this giant, massive, intimidating creature and goes, with his little knife, and that ended up being the killing blow. And so for the rest of my friend's life, he never got to live down that. I was like, dude, I told you, you just had Tonberry King, and the fight was over. It was that easy. But that ended up being, after all this dramatic stuff,
that's so rude.
The final blow that killed him.
One of the greatest game moments ever.
And I just died laughing. It was a wonderful time for me.
That's so rude. I can't believe you did that to him.
I mean, it's really his fault, though.
Yeah, it is, though. I mean,
all you had to do was use Tonberry King. That's it.
You did.
Props to your friend for getting Tonberry King. Was hard to get, so you're trying to do a master file. That's actually impressive.
I think he had a strategy guide and some help from an older cousin or brother. I think is what it was. I'm trying to remember now. It's been a long time, but yeah, Tonberry King seals the deal every time.
So we're going to skip over the handhelds because, I mean, who really cares? It's just Virtual Boy and Game Boy Light and stuff. So the 6th generation home consoles.